I spoke with Martha Stewart. I spoke with Oprah in the last year. I had never spoken 5 years ago in front of anybody.
Welcome to The Legal Edge, where we dive into what actually drives law firm growth. I'm your host, Rob Rosasco, and today we're talking with someone who has built a modern, multifaceted legal practice while managing to stay ahead of the technology curve. Our guest today is Diana Kahn, founder and owner of DK Law Group in Owings Mills, Maryland. Diana manages a legal practice focused on estate planning, real estate law, and business formation, three areas that typically eat up massive amounts of attorney time, but she's also built multiple businesses beyond her legal practice, including Premier Title, Lux Realty, and multiple property management companies, all while raising a family and earning recognition as a top 40 young lawyer by the American Bar Association. But here's what makes Diana's approach unique. She's integrated technology, including AI, into her workflows while using speaking engagements and other community involvement to build serious authority and brand awareness. She's not just practicing law, she's building an ecosystem of businesses that reinforce one another. Diana, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Rob. I'm excited to be here.
Good. Before we sort of dive into the tech and marketing aspect of our conversation, I want to talk about and get a better understanding of the foundation of your practice. You're not managing just a niche practice, one practice area. You've got estate planning clients, real estate clients, and other business and litigation matters. That's a lot of complexity. Plus, you've built other businesses like Premier Title, Lux Realty, and other property management companies. So you could have niched down and really focused on one practice area, but instead you elected to focus on three practice areas we've already discussed. Plus, obviously, your additional businesses, other businesses as a licensed real estate broker. Why'd you structure your practice this way?
So I'm a person of habits and systems. And for me, those systems make everything happen, right? And what I was finding is that with my systems in place, with the way I do things, if somebody called me for a consult or they called me for some help, I could get it done pretty quickly and efficiently. I think lawyers have a mentality of like, I have to do everything. And that's true to a degree, right? Like if you're submitting something in the court record, your signature's on it, which means that you have a legal duty to make sure that it's accurate. If you are, however, submitting a deed into land records, guess what? If you do it wrong, land records will resubmit it. And really, if you're familiar with the statute, it's a lot of what I call repeat work. So what happens a lot is people call a law firm and they're like, hey, I need you to do this level of things. And I was starting to throw those level of things that were outside of my niche to referral partners. I didn't care about the money, or I didn't care about getting a kickback, or, whatever the legal word that a lawyer is going to tell me I should have used. The point was I wanted somebody to efficiently move through the system so my client could be done. Unfortunately, what happens is people don't get back to your clients quickly enough. For some reason, people don't pick up their phone. It takes a long time. 90% of people are going to go somewhere else if you don't pick up your phone in the first 24 hours. And that's just a fact. So when I was building my systems, I was like, well, how difficult is it to record a deed? Like, how difficult is it if it's the same type of deed every time and we're really changing the first paragraph to make it unique to that client's systems? How difficult is it to record it? And the answer is it's not that difficult with the right systems. So getting a partner to return my clients' calls sometimes takes more hounding than hiring somebody full-time who has experience recording deeds and giving them those same systems in place. And I just kind of branched it into, okay, like it's easy to do on the surface. If you have the systems in place and you have trust in your staff, you should be able to do it. So that allowed me to kind of replicate a lot of it. And a lot of the time when I start a business or when I start any sort of new venture, I do everything on my own in the beginning to make sure that I fully understand the complexities of it. But then I hand it to my staff. It's my personal belief that if you are more knowledgeable or capable to do whatever your staff is being paid to do, you are working in the business, not on the business. I have no idea how to run the printer at my office. We have 3 of them. If you ask me, can you print this? I would be like, it's going to have to be tomorrow when my paralegal's here because I've no clue. But you should have these systems in place. And if you have systems in place, it allows you to kind of open businesses and branch out and do more as long as you perfect the beginning piece.
Yeah. Hiring staff is a very important component of your business too, I would assume. Hiring good staff, quality staff.
Mm-hmm. So Staff is huge. And I'll tell you that I'm a little bit of a control freak. I'm sure anybody who's listening to this will be like, no way. And I tell this story a lot because it's embarrassing, but I've got 3 young kids. They're now 7, 5, and 3. And about 3 years ago, like right around the time my youngest was about 1 and starting daycare, it was the summertime. And I was trying to manage litigation and I was trying to manage all these things. And I had no staff. I had like 2 members of my staff that had been there a long time. And I got an email from our preschool that said, good news for camp next week. Every single day, it's costume day with themes. So if you're doing the math, that's 5 costumes for 3 kids. That was 15 costumes. It was a Thursday. And I just remember I sat down and I was like, it made me cry. I broke down and I was like, I can't do this. And then I said, I need more staff. I don't know what I need staff for, but it's not enough. So I grew up really poor. It makes me really nervous to hire people. And I was like, all right, well, like, if I hire somebody, what's going to happen? I was like, you know what? I'm just going to hire somebody part-time, $18 an hour, like babysitter hour type pay. They're going to come in. I'll give them very baby stuff. If it doesn't work, I'll fire them in a week. At the very least, it'll work out. I sent out text messages to, I kid you not, the teachers at my kid's school and asked, do you know anybody who's looking for part-time work? I had hired somebody 2 hours later.
Wow.
I think literally the priorities were, do you breathe oxygen? Yes. Okay, cool. You start tomorrow. She started the next morning and I told myself 3 weeks. I can afford 3 weeks of her pay to make my life easy. So I started Googling, what should I have somebody do? Like, what's correct to have somebody who has no experience working at a law firm? Well, you can't Google that, right? Because people are going to tell you, have them answer the phones. If I have her answer the phones, I would lose clients. That's where I shine. I shine talking to the intake. Like, intake is not something most law firms do. I have to do the intake because if I do the intake, it works for me.
And you still do that today?
I do.
Okay.
I have staff who will schedule them on my calendar and all of that, but I do, again, I have a lot more systems. It's not just pick up the phone and talk to the lawyer before it used to be. So first 3 weeks, I kid you not, she started, had very little experience, no experience at all. She bought my kids' costumes. She did my kids' passport application because I wasn't able to do it. She went grocery shopping for me. And that was I think my 3rd employee, but I would say my first for my law firm. And it was 3 years ago, and we're at a staff of 43 now. And it was just that breaking point of just realizing that there's no right way to run a business. And to do that, you got to find staff and give them the ability to do what they enjoy and let them kind of take control of it. So I do a 90-day initiation period at my firm. We don't pay you well. Like, welcome to the team. You're going to do everything. And then 90 days from now, it's like, how's it going? What do you like doing? What are we doing wrong? Where do you see improvement? And if you ask those questions, you'll keep somebody who has very little legal experience doing something that you never thought of. And that's been my most successful rate. In fact, my paralegal that runs my entire office does not have a college degree. And she is, I think, better than most lawyers. And quite frankly, I've trained her for 2 years. And I think if she left me, Nancy, if you're listening, don't listen. But I think if she left me, I think she wouldn't get an offer paying her $300,000 at another law firm simply because she has no college degree. I think somebody will judge that. Right. But I think she's worth her weight in gold. I've fired other lawyers who didn't see her worth and said that, like, she didn't go to college. I want to talk to the lawyer. And I was like, she runs my practice. Like, you can leave. So staff is very important. And it's the crux of just make sure that your staff is running their positions and that you're not running your staff.
Yeah. Very good. Good story. So from 3 to 43 in, was it a year?
It's been about 3.5 years now. The first year we went from 0 at my law firm to 13.
Okay.
So,
how did the costumes work out? They were a hit?
Quite frankly, I don't remember. I think it was fine. I outsource a lot more now. I think a lot of women who listen to this will know what I mean by mom guilt and like family guilt. And I had a lot of that. And I have learned that guilt doesn't go anywhere. So I've learned on letting go of guilt and knowing that if my kids are happy and they have a costume that works for them, like, cool, I don't really care what you're wearing. Like, I'll get photos, like, you'll tell me about your day. You know, we'll have dinner and you'll either have the costumes or not, but either way, you're going to be happy with the outcome.
Yep. That's great life advice, not just managing a business or a law firm specifically. So let's talk a little bit about the ecosystem that you've built. Obviously, you have the law firm, but also you have a title company, you have a real estate company as a licensed broker, and then other supporting businesses. And we talk a little bit about property management, but also you have you're a licensed contractor as well, correct?
Yes. Well, our company is,
Company
I
is,
don't hold
right.
the license. Somebody holds it.
Right.
MHIC licensing, we do flips of houses and those kind of things. Again, I think when you're suing contractors, sorry for my contractor clients, but when you're suing them, you find out sort of the systems that are wrong. And I think it all boils down to systems. That's what it is. It's being human and having honesty and having good systems in place.
Share a little bit with me about how your businesses work together. And you've kind of hinted at this a couple of times already, but talk about the competitive advantages that the way that you structured your businesses and how they complement one another and how it provides you with, I don't know, perhaps advantages that other attorneys within your niche, within your practice areas, those attorneys don't necessarily have.
I think a lot of attorneys who are still doing old school billable hours are not going to talk to most people if they don't get that billable 30 minutes or 15 minutes or an
Mhm.
hour. And I think a lot of people are calling lawyers in times of their lives where everything's kind of stressed. And when I give them 30 minutes of my time and I say, hey, my other firm can do this, you know, we'll charge you a lower rate because it's in house, like etc. 90% of those clients will refer me back out. And now I have a system of different echoes of people. So giving people the ability to work with you is more flexible when you have multiple streams of income. You're not looking at the bottom dollar if you're helping somebody. Law firms will be like, quick claim deeds are this much and it's a set, price. For me, it's like,
Right.
you know what? It costs $130 to record in Baltimore City. If you're using me for legal services and you're telling me you don't want to go hire somebody $700 to pay for the deed, I'll do it at cost for you. And there's more flexibility to that when you have kind of just one pot where it's kind of all going into.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. You've talked a number of times about systems and creating well functioning systems or systems that help streamline a process. You've talked about how they've helped you run, manage, grow your businesses. Maybe offer a bit of advice in terms of creating those systems for other small law firm owners and how you think they can help these other small law firm owners or solo attorneys help streamline their business.
If you're not using AI, you're making a mistake. And
Okay.
that's my biggest system answer because when I started the firm, I mean, I'm young. Whether or not people like it or not, I'm not as big as somebody who's been in the legal field for 45 years, right? Like there's things that lawyer is going to bring to the table every single day that I do not know how to do. But it's very easy for me to use AI for 15 minutes to not have the same knowledge space, but to build a system about it or figure out how to do it. So I am the person who will say things like, I have this great idea. I have this great idea. Here's my idea. It's crazy. And I think people sometimes fall in that idea pace, whereas I go into AI and I'm like, how can I make this happen with as little effort from me as possible? And like, what are the systems? And then if it says send an email to a client regarding this, if that's step one of the system that AI is telling you to do, don't take that and start sending emails. Ask AI, what kind of emails get the best response rate? What kind of subject lines? And I think a lot of people who are creating systems who are using AI will ask AI for a system place, but then they're not refining each line item. The more closed loop your system is, the better. And by closed loop, I mean is every step of whatever you're building has to have multiple angles of why you're doing it. There should be intention behind everything you do. And AI makes that intention so easy because it's got such a breadth of knowledge. As I build these systems, or even as I learn things, our law firm has a back office website. It's called the DK Law Standard of Operations. And we have everything I've ever done legal. It's got a section, it's got kind of what I've put into AI, what it's taught me, educational piece, like how your email should look. And these are all things that I just had conversations with AI and build systems over time. So now all my staff has access to it.
As soon as you said that, the thought jumped into my head immediately. That's a sellable item. Have you ever considered maybe packaging that up and offering that as a how-to guide for managing a practice like yours? That I mean, I would think that someone, a solo attorney or a small firm in your position would just eat that up.
I think they would, but I don't want to offer something that's just going to end up on their shelf. And I think my next step is to offer these systems to smaller practices. I don't want to monetize something that you're going to put in your pocket and never use. I'm in Maryland, so for me, it's like the Maryland Bar Association books. There's books on every topic, and I bought every single one. They're between $400 to $500 each. And I reference them as reference books, but I think if you're going to purchase something, it needs to be more something that you're utilizing. So my next step is really to build a brand where I can help law firms, but also have a component where I require the one-on-one or the training so that I sleep better at night knowing I didn't just give you a document that I monetized on.
Right. That inevitably ends up on a shelf and sits there.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's dig into technology. You sort of segued into AI, which is something I'd like to talk about right now. But so let's talk about how your firm, your staff uses technology to support your clients and grow the firm. A lot of people, but specifically a lot of attorneys, are simply overwhelmed by the number of options in terms of technology, practice management software, AI tools, client portals, document automation. I'd really like to focus on what actually works. You're actively using technology, including AI, in your practice right now. What do you think separates firms that successfully implement technology from those who waste money on tools that they never use?
I think every tool works. Every single tool will work if you put it to work. And I think you need to wind down from this big system of these are all the tools and go down to one. I don't care what it is. You want to pick Clio, you want to pick ChatGPT. It doesn't matter. There's no right system. It's just if you go too big, it's too much. Stick to very small and figure out how it works with your personality and your system. So for example, for my firm, we have a spreadsheet that we start every week. It's pulled from our Clio database. That's all of our active files. And we have a meeting in the beginning of the week of what needs to get done on every file. I'm not doing everything on every file. There's things that are like, Diana's going to check these memorandums, etc. But my staff then uses that spreadsheet to take notes every time they touch the file. It's in our system too. In our Clio system, we take notes, but they'll do like, I'm sure I did a call with Nancy this morning. She's going to probably notate something that says, did interrogatory prep with this client at this time, discuss this. So she copies and pastes that note into the Excel sheet, but also into our database. We then take that Excel sheet and do what's called a weekly update to our client, where we ask ChatGPT to write a nice email and humanize our notes of what occurred on their file and explain legal processes. We then have AI send an automated email from my email that says, hey, this is your weekly update on your file. And I tell all of my clients before they start, that email is not written by me. It is an AI system that we use. Errors will happen. And I'm very honest with it. I was like, however, find me a law firm that's going to send you an email every single Friday that tells you what's going on in your file. You will not get that. So it's a system that I built that I think has grown a loyalty of my clients that's massive. And I think owning the human aspect of it and saying, hey, listen, like, it's not always going to be me that sends that email because it's automated. But if you respond, it's coming to my email, you'll receive a human response from me. I would rather you get an email that's just literally taking what my internal processes are so you know, A, your file is being touched, and B, if I have the word interrogatory, you may not know exactly what that is. You may not know what a motion to dismiss is or what the difference between a motion to dismiss versus a motion for summary judgment. But if you get a weekly update and that puts in a paragraph for you that explains in a human way what a motion to dismiss is, that goes a long way for your clients. I think before I started doing that, most of my clients who were frustrated with my representation didn't understand that motion to dismiss is limited to very small little arguments. So you hear my lawyer lost the motion to dismiss. Well, if you understand what it is, you also understand that everybody files one and they're very likely to get approved. It's more human nature. And I think that it goes a long way. And that goes with working systems that work for you. That might not work for Rob running a law firm. And I think that's our mistake is we're trying to adapt to a very big AI system and we're trying to make ourselves fit the systems. And what you really need to do is realize that every single one of them will work. It doesn't matter what you're using. You just have to make it work for whatever your firm's, soul and makeup is. And if you're not doing that, you're losing.
Okay, understood. And I think your honesty obviously is extremely important, sharing with your clients early on that these reports or these emails are not created, they're not generated by me. I think that's where most people get into trouble when it comes to AI is they're passing AI results off as their own work. So being honest with your clients is key, obviously, in any aspect of that relationship. But in regards to this specifically is very important. If they reply to that email and it gets to your inbox, you are going to reply to their questions or their reply. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. I think that's a great use of the tool.
And I think I got to tell you, and in that same conversation, I tell them, listen, the only person who doesn't use that spreadsheet is me. Like, I don't use it. And it's because I am making 100 calls a day. And if I talk to Rob at 11 o'clock and I get in front of my computer at 3 o'clock, I may not be able to update that Excel sheet. So a lot of the time, you'll notice that if you and I have a personal conversation, it's not part of the update. And it's because it's probably because I screwed up my own system. And, that's part of using those systems. Know that they're not infallible, know that they're not foolproof. And you're not going into legal arguments with an attorney that only does AI. You're having an attorney who uses AI who's going to formulate their arguments, but I do it for the better. I think 95% of attorneys will be shocked to hear that I will upload a motion for summary judgment and the response into AI, and I will actually have a voice conversation on my way to court. I will literally use ChatGPT. I'll turn the voice conversation on. People don't realize you could do this. You can have conversations with ChatGPT. And I give it instructions and I say, I'm going to give you my opening statement. And I give them my opening statement. They have the fact pattern because you've uploaded the documents. And then I ask it, where did I mess up? What is the likelihood that the other side, what are they going to say? Can you give me the opening statement that they're likely to say? What did I mess up off the key facts that I have? Nobody's doing that. And if you start doing it, I mean, I go to court sometimes, I anticipate what the other side's going to say because I've just done that extra prep. And it was all I was writing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I knew that ChatGPT had that option, but I've never used it. But you just actually gave one of probably literally an unlimited number of applications for it, but that's a really good one. And I'm sure everybody listening could probably come up with a handful in their own lives where that would be applicable. That's a good hint, good tidbit. So are there any other areas in the practice that you or your staff uses AI where it's been helpful, beneficial, perhaps to streamline or make a process more effective?
So I have a rule with my staff, and people are going to find this very controversial. Do not come ask me a question if you haven't asked ChatGPT.
Okay.
And if I ask you to do something, whatever it is, if you tell me it's not possible, if you tell me it's not going to work, I want you to give me other solutions as to how and tell me how you came up with those solutions. Because what I'm doing is I am teaching my staff to use resources so that I am not Google for them. And then that makes them think on their own. And they're going to come back with something that probably AI is going to give to somebody without a law degree, right? Like, if this argument doesn't work, try this argument. But now my staff is coming up to me and they're like, here's the arguments that it's saying that it would work. And I'm like, well, here, let me tell you my legal experience and why these three don't work. What you've done now is you've taken something that somebody in another firm is likely to ask the question, get an answer, and move on. And I've taught my staff how to manipulate the facts and understand the key reason behind it. And they've done it in their own way. I think a lot of us don't realize that we are such different humans. And ChatGPT is very good at humanizing it to a degree that you would understand it. I usually tell people if I don't understand something, I'm not going to do well in it. So if I'm learning a new legal concept, even as a lawyer, I'll upload the statute in ChatGPT and be like, explain this to me on a first grade readability level.
And you've done that? You've actually done that before?
Yes.
And
yes, I actually make it third grade readability level, and it's great.
That's great. And it does it effectively? It does it well?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yep. And I actually got that from a marketing thing that I learned. I learned that if you make marketing content, most people have an average third grade readability level. That is the average that you should use for your marketing content. And I was like, well, I'm no different than society, right? Like, if society says that third grade readability level is what I'm going to adhere to if I'm watching a commercial, why is that not the same in understanding concepts?
Yeah, it is.
And I think that makes a big difference.
That's interesting. Okay, moving on in technology. Some of your practice areas, real estate, estate planning, can be incredibly document intensive or document heavy. Talk a little bit about how your staff uses automated tools to sort of automate the document creation or document storage process, but still have managed to maintain that personal touch.
So I don't go cheap on any system that is going to a client. So what I mean by that is, I do trust for a living, I build trusts out. If you do research on what the trust is, there's a lot of opinions. I use Wealth Counsel. It is expensive as hell, right? And it does give you the same document every single time. But they do the research for you. Those not familiar with Wealth Counsel, it's a system for trusts and estates and wills. And what I liked about them is that if you flip between two different states, they will state change the statute on their automation of documents. They also do research and make sure their documents are always up to snuff on the state of that you're in and pull statutes and give you those warnings. So now I feel like not only am I supposed to, as a lawyer, stay on top of this, but I'm paying for a system that's not just providing automation, but they're doing something that lawyers are supposed to be doing. And then from there, again, you could use AI to build systems that are better. Where we go extra is we help our clients formulate a letter to their loved ones. What kind of letter would you like to leave? No, it's not a legal document. Humanize the process of taking documents that are provided by systems that are made for lawyers and think about it from a human perspective. Most people don't understand what a trust is. If you start talking about irrevocable trusts or grantor trust, they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So use the legal systems that are, I'm not going to say most expensive, because most expensive doesn't mean
The best.
best. I'm going to say use the systems that have the research tools that you lack, or the things that you lack. Because for me, I would never be able to do trust if I didn't use Wealth Counsel, because I know Wealth Counsel does that research that I would not have time for. And that makes me more confident in the documents I work. Is it the same document every time that they produce? Absolutely. But it allows me to take the step of actually working on it. Same thing with, are you using Westlaw or Lexis? A lot of people are like, I just use whichever one's free. Well, Lexis has Lexis AI now, and it's a closed loop system, and they does citation research. And it's not like ChatGPT where it just makes up stuff. You can click on all the citations. Lexis is expensive. I use it just for the AI system because it's another research tool.
Right.
Adapt to that. Use the systems that are meant to make life easier, but don't be lazy and just be like, this is easy now. It just eliminates a big step so you can focus on other stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Smart. Well, that's actually a great segue to the next question. Talk a little bit about the process that you use or that your staff uses to evaluate new technology. Every week there's a new tool, a new AI tool that promises to revolutionize your business. How do you decide whether something is worth using, worth implementing, versus just something that's conflated and it's a shiny new object?
I don't change systems unless I know the new one's going to work. Let's say I'm using X and, I see that Y is cool and it works great. Y is bought by my firm as long as they have a cancellation policy, not a 1-year contract type thing. And then I give it to the staff that use that portion of what they would benefit from it. So my staff have different departments. I have a criminal department, a family law department, real estate. So if it's like a deed thing, I'll give it to the person who does all of our deeds. And I'll say, this is a new system. I'm paying for it for you to use it for the next 12 weeks. I will not use it. I don't care about it. We may not use it, but I'm going to ask you in 12 weeks from now, am I switching to the system or not? And if you say yes, then I'm going to try it myself. Because again, systems don't work if you're not using them. And I think if you've got a good system that works, don't look at it as a replacement. Look at it as an additional expense to see how it's going to save you money over time.
All right, very good. Now let's move on to a new topic, something that actually I'm very interested in talking with you about, because in doing research for our conversation, I was thoroughly impressed by this aspect of your practice and more specifically, you as a person and professional. Let's talk a little bit about how you build your authority through your community involvement, community leadership, and specifically speaking engagements. So you have built some serious credibility in the community as a top 40 young lawyer, as stated by the ABA. You sit on boards, you have speaking engagements regularly, you're involved in mentoring programs, and none of that happens by accident. You have to focus time and effort on that. Most attorneys know they should do this. They should be involved in their community, but they're not really sure how to get started, so they simply never do. How do you use speaking engagements, speaking opportunities, and your involvement in the community to actually drive business growth?
If you are speaking to a room of people, and this is just my personal experience, people automatically think that you have something that they don't because you're sitting in front of that room. And it's not because of your knowledge base that you're offering. It's because most people don't have the ability to stand in front of a room because it's intimidating, right?
It can
So
be.
a lot of the time, I think that gives you a credibility that gets your name out there. I will pay a lot of money to talk to people who are learning versus going to a happy hour because I feel like those people are there to learn and they want to be able to do it. But I gotta tell you, 5 years ago, I had never publicly spoke in my life.
Really?
Ever. I spoke with Martha Stewart. I spoke with Oprah in the last year. I had never spoken 5 years ago in front of anybody. And here's the thing, like I'm plus size, I'm a female, I am not really, fluffy. And I decided to do it, and I was so stressed the first time I did it, and so stressed the second time I did it. So I just started saying yes to every opportunity. It wasn't like, I'm passionate about croissants, so I'm going to go find a system where people talk about croissants all day long. No, I was like, you know what? I have a dog. I'll talk about my experience with X on my dog. And just, I think getting through a couple speaking experiences was huge for me. But then it's also the mental ability of knowing that you are your own worst critic. But I remember the first time I did a TV appearance, which I paid for it, by the way. I paid a lot of money to be on a 10-minute segue into TV. And the first time I did it, I remember I was like so stressed, and I'm very self-conscious about my arms. That's my personal fear. Like I don't do well with it. And I was trying to decide, should I wear like a short sleeve shirt or a long sleeve shirt? And I was so stressed. I like reached out to my friend and I was like, here's outfits I should wear. And she was like, why are you wearing a massive sweater? And I was like, well, I don't want people to see my arms. I don't want them to see it. And she was like, and this has stuck with me forever. She said, if you have massive arms or little arms, you're still sitting on live television and they're sitting on their couch at home. And she's like, if anybody notices your arms, A, they weren't going to use you anyway. 2, they're probably never going to be on TV, so who cares? And I kind of realized that. I'm about to go talk about trusts and wills on TV that I've paid a lot of money for, and I'm sitting there like, don't look at my arms, don't look at my arms. And I think that really changed my perspective. And I think if you realize that you really are your own worst critic, and if you want to publicly speak, just say yes. That makes a very big difference. And if you're listening to this and you think I'm saying just say yes, and you're like, well, she makes it seem easy. No, I've had stress. I don't want to do them. I have flopped. And just knowing that you did it is kind of the only award you're going to get sometimes. But if you do it, the next time you're going to learn. And I think that's the hard portion that a lot of lawyers aren't doing.
Yeah. And again, good story. And kudos to your friend. She's exactly right. And it obviously worked for you.
I'll be sure to tell her that she's having a baby today and it's her first. So
Congratulations.
I'm about to give her life advice.
Yes, you've got 3. So it's a road you've traveled down.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So how do you decide the wheres and the whens? What's the strategy you use for choosing where you're going to get involved, where you're going to speak, what speaking engagements you're going to take?
In the beginning, it was everything. You want me to speak? I'll do it. Hey, is there an opportunity to speak? I'll do it. People used to be like, hey, we think your law firm can sponsor this event here. Do you want to sponsor it? Yeah, sure. Can I speak for 5 minutes? I didn't want to speak, so I started basically forcing myself into it. And I've spoken to rooms of 5 people. I've spoken in rooms of 10 people. And with time, I started noticing when people started asking me to speak, that's when I knew that the tides had changed a little bit, right? But at first it was just, I'm going to speak all the time. And I think this is a very different approach that I think most people take is I'm going to speak only to what I'm passionate about, or I'm going to do X because I'm passionate about it. I think for me, it was, I know I want to speak and I don't really know where that goes, but I can't decide what 5 years from now is going to look like. So in order to speak, I got to do it. I spoke at 323 events the first year.
323 events in a calendar year?
Yes.
Wow.
And don't be very impressed because some of them were I'd go to lunch and be like, hi, I'm Diana, I'm a lawyer, thanks for having me. But I counted every single, if I stood in front of a person and it was not a one-on-one conversation, it was a speaking event. And, then from there, I started narrowing down. I was like, all right, well, now the aim is to have 100 valuable speaking opportunities in a year. And, it doesn't matter. And now I'm on year 3 or 4 and I get approached to speak, so I no longer have to look for the opportunities. And that was a very big portion of the first year. And then the second is I now have staff that filter the requests. And because I still want to say yes to everything. And that's just who I am as a human. I don't plan where I'm going to go. I have values that I'm like, what are my values and how do they align with where I want to be? Because now I'm at a point where I can pick and choose. So now, I say things like, we're not speaking to a room for less than 20 people unless they fall within a parameter of, a goal that we're trying to achieve. We're not doing this. And then once in a while, instead of now me picking, my marketing manager came up to me yesterday and we had an event yesterday that I spoke to a room of 7 people. And that's just not something I do anymore. But it was a state senator that asked me to speak, which I didn't even know, right? I didn't even know that. So she just came up to me and she's like, I made a decision. There's only going to be 7 people there. And I was like, okay. And I didn't ask any more questions because I trust my staff. And I show up there and it's there's my face next to a state senator. And I was like, okay, this makes sense.
That's a win. Good for you. And it also speaks to the quality of your staff too.
You got to trust them.
Yeah, absolutely. And the point that you made about now being in a place where you can choose your speaking engagements, if not for that first year and the aggressive approach you took to speaking, you wouldn't be where you are today. So it speaks volumes about you as a person, as a human being, and as a professional as well. So good for you.
For those of you who are trying to build authority on speaking or just build authority so you get more business, people will allow you to speak in a room if you pay. I will tell you that 100%. They need sponsors. They need somebody to pay for the coffee bar. They need somebody to pay for this. These events that people throw take a lot of time, and it's not very picky. I've had situations where, again, I would just reach out to people, be like, hey, I see you're looking for sponsors. Would you let me speak if I sponsor for this much money? And I did that a lot in the beginning.
Yeah.
Now I do it still, but I do it with intention.
Right.
So, and what I mean with intention is, I'm a real estate lawyer. At this point in my career, if you're a realtor in the state of Maryland and you have not heard of me, I would be shocked. Whether or not you like me or not, like there's plenty of people that don't. But you know who I am. That's kind of where I niche my business.
Yep.
So now I'm kind of pivoting to new fields. And for those fields, I'm doing kind of what I used to do with the real estate industry. We can't be picky there because I don't know who we are.
Right.
So let's kind of reopen that back up. Let's offer to pay to get into a room where maybe we weren't there before.
So expound on that a little bit. Where are you looking to speak now?
So I have an event I am speaking at in early January where I have a lot of friends who are sober now and have been for a while. So I'm sponsoring a sober event where it's most people who are trying to get their life together after being in addiction. And I think most of the sponsors there are people who are things like, you need a banana bag, join the gym, reinvent yourself. Meanwhile, I am paying quite a lot of money to be on. There's going to be about 500 people in attendance, and I've paid for my law firm's logo to be right on stage, and I'm going to basically speak, and I'm going to find a way to speak about reinventing yourself and why lawyers need it for those services.
Okay, very good.
The other factor I do is the Hispanic community is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Law firms, again, sorry if you're this firm, we keep advertising about immigration, and we keep advertising about I'm going to call it ambulance chasing because I think we all have kind of heard that term, right? Like personal injury, cars. If you turn on a Hispanic TV station and you see a law firm commercial, that is what they're focusing on, period. So what did I do? I created 6 different Spanish commercials that are running in all of the state on every channel that I think, the Hispanic community can watch. And they're about anything but that. They're about empowering their business owners. They get divorces. They have real estate matters, and nobody's advertising for them. Why? I don't really know. I think, we can speak to the why. I think that there's definitely some knowledge as to why. There's an intention that they need immigration. Maybe they don't have money to start a business because it's an immigration issue. And I'm like, why? 40% of the business in the state of Maryland are run by a Hispanic person, right? And so I have a Hispanic staff. I have all Spanish speaking. I don't speak Spanish. So I have staff who speak Spanish. I did a consult last night with somebody who saw our TV commercial, and they said no other lawyer called me back. Why aren't we calling them back?
It's a good question. Okay. And actually, that's a segue to a lot of attorneys, those who do speak or those who do get involved in the community. They're present, they speak, they give a great presentation, people clap, then nothing ever comes of it. How do you, and you've sort of hinted at this a little bit, but talk a little bit more about how you transition that speaking opportunity or that community involvement into actual client relationships. Talk a little bit about your follow-up. You just yourself said this person didn't get a call back from a firm. Talk a little bit about how you and your staff do that.
So I'm going to talk about it in 2 factors. The first is going to be kind of new clients and then existing clients. So new clients, when they come into our firm, they're asked, who referred you? Where did you see us from? If there is a name that you say, that person is getting a handwritten card from my firm, signed by my name, that says thank you for the opportunity to help XYZ. Existing clients that I have a literal full-time employee who stalks them on Facebook, looks at their life choices, what they're doing, and we do follow-ups. Not when somebody posts and says, I just had a baby, because everybody's congratulating that person when they had a baby. I try to be more intentional with it. And, I'll give you an idea. I had a client once. He hired me, paid me the money, never finished up his trust. And he paid me $6,000. It was not something minor. He just never came back. So he called me about something else, and I took care of it pretty quickly. And I asked him in passing, and I was like, I never heard from you after the trust. What happened? And he said, I didn't really get the warm and fuzzies from you. And I think I might have been mistaken because you helped me today. And I think that was just my interpretation, whatever he said. I think most lawyers will sit with that for a second. What I did is I had my staff, I kid you not, go to TJ Maxx and buy the fuzziest socks they could in black and a blanket. And we have a full, like we have our Cutco, a Circo. I don't know. My staff has basically an embroidery machine, a heat press, and something else in our office. So within 4 hours of him saying that, he had socks, a blanket, and cup with my logo on it. And then I also bought him a really nice bottle of bourbon. And then I used my legal systems to figure out where he lived, and I had her hand deliver it by the
That
end of the day.
is great to help him feel warm and fuzzy.
And he sends me pictures of the blanket, which sits on his couch, by the way. We text all the time now. He's a huge real estate investor. He does a lot of business. I like him as a human, but we went from just that experience. So I think I have 24 matters with him right now.
Wow.
He sends me pictures every time he has a cup of bourbon from that bottle. He texted me the other day and he asked me about one of his cases. He was like, can I file for emotional damage or emotional whatever? And I said, well, I don't know. Are you seeing a doctor? Do you have therapy? And he's like, the only therapy I have is at the bottom of the bourbon bottle. And I was like, are you out of bourbon? He's like, I'm almost at the bottom. He was like, that was a very expensive bottle. He got a new bottle like right away.
That's great.
So I got to tell you, I probably spent $300 in total. And that's because the bourbon bottle was expensive. And I made a client for life.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
no one's gonna care if you pivot into something where everybody else is saying congratulations or sorry for your loss. And just kind of realizing what's gonna kind of hit home to you, I think makes a huge difference in your marketing.
Right. And not that you simply did it for the return on investment, but that $300 investment has come back in terms of the business
Correct.
the new client's given you.
And
Wow, that's great. That's a great story.
And here's the thing. I don't think getting him a bottle of bourbon or fuzzy socks, I didn't think he would continue to use me, right? Like I made a joke of it a little bit. It hit home for him. I read the personality, but I also provide systems that he wants to continue to use me because whatever happened the first time, I did that reflection too, right? Like I looked back and I was like, well, what happened? And I looked through his file. I looked where he met with a particular paralegal who doesn't happen to be with our office anymore, which I think speaks to my, not for that reason, but maybe that's what it was. And I looked through the file and tried to figure out where it went wrong so that if you don't know where you went wrong, you're making a mistake. And then he's continuing to use those, not because I bought him a bottle of bourbon, but because that experience hasn't happened again. I figured out why. That particular person is very much private and he really values his privacy. People don't know that he's a client of mine. He comes up a lot in social settings because it's a very small community. And not a single one of them has, like, he once told me, nobody knows that you represent me or that we're even friends. And I'm like, that's because I know that that's something you value. You don't need 100 clients. You need 5 or 6 good ones that you do well by, and it'll come back in tenfold.
Yeah, completely agree. And I completely agree with you too, Diana. That gesture is what sort of changed your relationship, but it's the work that you've done for him since that has, maintained the relationship. If he'd come to you after receiving that gift and you'd failed him again, he would have never come back.
No,
Yeah.
not even he would have finished that bottle and I never heard from him.
That's
again.
exactly right. And he didn't,
And
he would have enjoyed every sip.
right. And listen, nobody wants a law firm like highlighter with our logo on it. So, when I realized that, I started to ignore, did you know that for my staff to have 2 heat presses in our office, a embroidery machine, and like a Cricut? Yes, a Cricut.
Yeah.
I spent, I think, $1,000 on it. But that has been the most used system because now my staff, instead of going to like t-shirts.com and getting 100, highlighters with our logo on it, when I hear, oh, I'm having a baby, they get something with the logo on it, whether or not it's a cup that we put the logo heat pressed on it, or, they get something with our logo, but that's not in your face. And it's more like XYZ. I've been a mom, so I know like what products I liked as a mom. So I've gotten a product and kind of made a joke out of my logo and been like, I'll put it somewhere very unconspicuously and ask ChatGPT to come up with a horrible joke about it. Like, I think I gave one of my friends who had a baby, I gave her something that's used in the bathroom and is like the most handy thing that I had in postpartum. And I literally put on it, I can't believe she put her logo here too, like right in the corner, very small,
Yeah,
and
great.
made fun of myself.
Yep. Very good. All right. I know you've had mentoring opportunities in the past as well. Talk to me a little bit about the mentoring opportunities you've had and how mentorship fits into your brand building strategy, but also share with me your thoughts on, is it simply a way for you to give something back, or does it actually have a business purpose as well?
So I think it's both, right? I think some of the best referrals I get are from people that I mentor one way or another, because as lawyers, we don't know everything. We know how to read the statutes and interpret them. And I find that if a lawyer is calling me and they want a question, no matter how dumb that question is, I will take the 15 minutes to help them through it. Because when I hear myself talk about something, I'm like, wow, this is actually not that simple. It's just simple to me because I do it every day. And when you do that for somebody, most of the time the answer is like, you know what? Can you just do it? Like, yeah, absolutely. And then it becomes like, well, how much are you going to charge me for it? Because I had like a lawyer one time. She had a tenant in her property she wanted to evict, and she does like discovery law. And she wanted me to mentor through it. She didn't want to pay a lawyer for it. She just wanted to do it. And she was very intimidated. And I was like, look, I'll just do it for you. Like, it's fine. Took the time to help her. And now every time I have a discovery issue, she's my go-to person. And she works for the government. She does electronic discovery. And it's just, again, I don't see it as a quid pro quo as much as just do right by people and they'll remember you when they need something.
Yep. Okay. Very good. So, what one bit of advice would you offer attorneys or an attorney who is concerned about, I guess, their appearance or the way that they look when they promote themselves? You know, when they get out to speaking engagements and they're promoting themselves, or they're out in the community and they're promoting themselves. What's the one bit of advice you would give to an attorney to sort of help them overcome that and explain or describe the necessity of that to them?
First, it's lead into the discomfort and ask why. And what I mean by that is, I think most of us will say, I don't like going to the dentist. I hate dentists, right? Like, that's something you hear all the time. And it's just a simple example, but have you ever asked yourself, like, why don't you like dentists? Like, really ask yourself, why don't you like a dentist? And when you start kind of going into that and kind of pivot into the discomfort, you'll find the answer is not because I don't like somebody in my teeth. I grew up in a communist country. They didn't use pain reliever when I was younger. And, you know, I would have never thought about that until I did because I have a huge fear of dentists. So it was like, okay, like, why am I uncomfortable? Where is it coming from? And then force yourself to sit in the discomfort while you do it. And I think those are two big things. If you don't know why you don't want to do something, you're never going to be able to do it. If you're going into a public speaking event, then you're like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And then you do it, but you don't understand what the reason was for you not liking it. People are going to pick that up on it as well. When I started doing a lot of public speaking, I did this exercise, which was very eye-opening to me, where I spoke about something I was very interested about that had nothing to do with law. It was like a book that I liked. I picked a topic, and I set up my iPhone, and I told myself I was going to speak for 5 minutes about it. Whatever I wanted. I literally said, just speak about it. And I did this at the advice of one of my mentors, and then I watched it back, and I watched it 3 times. The first time I watched it, I listened to it. I didn't watch it. Listen to the way I was speaking about it. Because this is something that I'm passionate about. There was nothing about it that was about getting business. It was just something that I know a lot about, and I just spoke about it on my own. And that informed me, where are my filler words? Where am I saying? Why am I saying? It told me a lot about my speaking and how I do it. And I think that I learned a lot about it. Then the second time I watched it, I watched just my body language. And then I aligned it to where are the filler words that I'm using and how does my body language look there? Where is the discomfort coming from and how do I look? And then watch it together. And that will tell you a lot about yourself. It will not tell you if you're a good public speaker, but it's going to tell you about the things that make you uncomfortable and why. And I think that lead into the discomfort is a big thing. I did it that time, but I've done it other times when I have to speak about topics that I don't do well in. And I've learned from myself, and this is different for everybody, is that if I feel like I'm not confident in what I'm talking about, I get nervous. And I think that's normal for everybody, but I show it in my appearance and all of that. So now it's like, next step is, okay, well, how can I know more about it? Knowing this about myself, is this something that I can get through this discomfort and purposefully sit with that discomfort to make myself either overcome it or realize it's not for me?
That's very good. Okay. So do you seek out opportunities now still to speak about topics that you're not comfortable with?
I just spoke at a Baltimore Banner event. I kid you not, I paid to speak. It was me, a state senator, and some lady from some cybersecurity company that I've never heard of. It was a cybersecurity event.
Okay.
If you Google me, nothing about me says cybersecurity. And I sat up there, and I got to tell you, I was in extreme distress because the questions that they had were things that were just really out of scope. But I found a way, like I, again, sat with AI. I was like, this is what I know. This is like, these are the questions, humanize them for me. How can I tie them back to what I know? You know, I did the prep work, but then I told all my friends, like, I'm going to a cybersecurity event and I'm going to be speaking. And I had such imposter syndrome on that there. If you look me up on social media, you'll see me sitting there between like two females, and I even look more casually dressed than they do. So that should tell you, like, I was way out of scope of where I was sitting. And I just did it. I did it, and I came down, and I was like, that was horrible. But you know what? It was an environment where there was not a lot of people in the same scope or breadth that I am. So I got a lot of people that came up to me afterwards to talk. Some of them were lawyers that were like, how did you sit up there? Some of them were like, I heard that you're trying to get more into the field. Lots of LinkedIn. And then this was in Howard County. My marketing team told me that Howard Beale then reached out and asked if I wanted to grab lunch, who is like, you know, I spoke at a cybersecurity event, had no idea what I was doing, and somehow made an impression on somebody who leads a county. I felt so intense. Why did I do it? I wanted to speak at a Baltimore Banner event.
Good for
And
you.
so I got an event that I will be speaking at that's real estate related in like a month or two. It's a women event that I was very passionate speaking about, but they were a little hesitant because, you know, I'm kind of into a segue of new environments. So I was like, okay, so I got myself to speak there, but I told them I want to speak at another event because I'm paying for this, right? So I was like, I want to speak at another event. And they were like, we only have 3. And one of them was a cybersecurity event. So we did it.
Good for you. I'm sure I don't have to tell you this, but most people wouldn't do that. They wouldn't step out so far outside of their comfort zone and not only work their way through it, but find some benefit to it as well. So good for you.
Not all of them are successes either. And
That is true. You're absolutely right.
if you're listening to this and be like, well, not anybody can be you, Diana. Literally, I have so many failures and I just laugh about them. I think people listen to me speak and you're like, wow, you're so open when you fail. And I'm like, because if we're not talking about it, you're failing too.
Yep. You're absolutely right. All right. So I've got some rapid fire questions we're going to breeze through.
Sure.
So number 1, tell me a little bit about the sheep commercial.
Made a commercial, first commercial on TV, wanted to be different. It's a bunch of young kids basically sitting around trying to think of how to make a good commercial. We're saying really stupid things. And then at the end, I say, why don't we just look at the screen and just say we're a good law firm? And that's what we did. It's like an office style commercial. One of my staff members said, how about we've got your back like a sheep? And she bawed. And I don't know why we decided to put that baw at the end of the commercial.
Okay.
And we did it. 70% of the commercials have it, 30% don't.
Okay.
It went viral. All of our commercials have it baw at the end. It's become a viral thing. Nobody gets it, but it worked. So lean into crazy. It works.
Okay. What's the biggest misconception that solo practitioners have about using technology in their practice?
I don't know how to do it, so I'd rather ask 10 people about it rather than sit down and do it.
Okay. One tech tool that every attorney should implement immediately. What is it?
If you're not using a system like Clio for case management, you're making a mistake. Use a case management system.
What's the first thing you look at or consider when evaluating whether speaking opportunities worth your time?
Not monetary benefit, but rather benefit 3, 6, and 9-month benefit from doing it.
Okay.
And the 9-month benefit is when I look at a return on profit or investment.
Got it.
If it's a $0 interest of time, I still equate my speaking time as an hourly value. If I'm speaking for an hour, that's a 4-hour prep. Have I made that return in 9 months? And if I have not, it's not worth doing it.
What is one overlooked ethical issue with AI in the practice of law that attorneys need to pay attention to, need to wake up to?
It's so easy that you don't fact check and double check your work. Triple, quadruple check, have a system in place, have somebody check behind you. If you're using it for ease, check it.
Okay. And this coming from someone who certainly uses AI throughout their practice.
Yes, AI will make stuff up. Even if you upload an entire transcript and tell me stuff, double check it. Use it for what eloquence it provides, but always triple check.
Okay. And finally, if you were starting your practice today from ground zero, knowing what you know now, utilizing that experience you've gained, what would you do differently?
Put in more boundaries, quicker on certain client expectations. I was not, at the beginning, I chased the client to say yes to hire me and didn't set up boundaries. Now, when I do a consult, it's a two-way consult. It's not just, can I provide you legal services? It's also, are we a good fit?
Okay. Good for you. All right, very good. Diana, thank you very much. I've really enjoyed our conversation. You shared a lot of helpful things for anyone who might be listening. You provided some great ideas, some real strategies for building a practice that's not only going to be successful today, but successful in the future as well. Sort of integrating technology without losing that human touch, building authority not only for you, but for your firm, and managing the ethical complexities of your business, considering your practice areas. So for attorneys that are looking to modernize their practice and also build authority or build relationships in their community, where can they find you?
The easiest way to find me is if you want to find me, just shoot me a text. My cell number 443-739-6724. That is actually my cell phone number. It is not AI. You will get a response from me. Other than that, dklawmd.com is our website, and from there it branches out into everything we do.
Okay, fantastic. Again, Diana, thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and thank you for tuning in. If today's episodes helped you rethink how to use technology in your practice or how to build your brand, then subscribe to The Legal Edge. We're bringing proven strategies from attorneys who are actually building successful modern practices. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next episode.